Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Wendy. I'm going to wait a few minutes for everybody to come on board. Let's talk about the science of love. I have a very special guest tonight, too, so I'm waiting for my guest to log on. We are live on, I see, Facebook. If you are just coming on board, tell me where you're watching from. Right now, I should be on, thank you, Jones, for zooming in. I like that finger. I like the green elbow in the shot, too. It's okay. It's part of going live. I have a beautiful 17-year-old who's my IT department right here and helping me out. Anyway, as usual, I like to start off by telling me where you're watching from because it's so nice to see everybody. So just say a quick hello. Hello, Akshay from Canada. Let's see who I've got here. My Hermosa life, I'm guessing you're in Hermosa, beautiful town. And nope, that's not who we want.
I know, I'm just seeing if she's...
Oh, you're seeing if she's asking to go live. We're waiting for our guest to come on board. Hello, Michael from San Antonio, Texas. Nice to see you here. We are going to be talking the science of love as usual. So I think I have my guest coming on board now. I'm really excited. It's a very special guest. And all I'm going to ask you to do first, Alex, because I can see you in the StreamYard box, but I don't see you requesting me on Instagram yet. So if you can figure out how to do that, then we're just going to be two lucky people. That's all I can say. So I saw her reach up to her phone, which tells me that she must be requesting to join at some point. Her mic is off. Alex on the mic. There she is. Send request. Waiting for Alex. And then I can let you on everywhere else once we have you on Instagram. We'll start there. And who else do we got here? We got Michael from San Antonio. Lorenzo, where are you from? Joey from South Texas. Hello, tell me where you're watching from. There's Alex. Yay! Okay, so let me add you to the stream here on StreamYard.
Fix this mic.
There we go.
Oh, Dr. Wendy, do you need me to put on headphones? Because I'd be happy to do that.
No, I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Good.
Yeah. I'll just use a headphone for Instagram and then the StreamYard that goes out to my computer. Everybody watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, make sure that you can hear my audio. If you can't, hi, Bethany from Toronto. How are you? Hello, Leo from Hacienda Heights. Nice to see you too. Always let me know where you're watching from. It's really fun, Alex, because sometimes because of time zones, people are watching from all around the world. And it's like they're mourning in their office desk in Thailand and such and Hong Kong, and it's really fun. That's what I love. Hello from Lori from the OC. Okay, and hi, Jerry from New Hampshire. How are you? All right, so if you don't know Alex Gervasi, get to know her. You're going to know her more intimately than you ever planned tonight. She is a former colleague of mine at iHeartRadio, although we've never met. We probably walked the halls past each other. Host of the podcast, Alex Tries Her Best. And one of the things I want to tell you, even though you're a music executive now over there at Universal, but one of the things I want to say that I love about your personality and your brand is that you really take the time to talk about really prickly issues. And you talk about body positivity, mental health, all kinds of things. And my area is relationships. And of course, if you don't have good mental health, you don't have good relationships.
Sure.
So why don't we start by you simply telling us, what do you think is the most important relationship bit of advice that you either got from somebody or you would like to give to the world right now?
Okay. Well, Dr. Wendy, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. And I remember, I think it's so funny where I think we were on different floors. I was always on the 5th floor and you were on the 4th floor. But I always, everyone always talked to me about you and like, you have to go, you have to meet her. And so I'm so happy this is finally happening. And yeah, so thank you so much for having me on. But, it's interesting. Well, first of all, you are getting me fresh out of therapy. So my mind is already going when it comes to mental health, relationship things. So I feel very warmed up. But I also think what's really funny about the question you just asked me is a few weeks ago, I accidentally went viral on Twitter answering that very question. And the question was, what was the best piece of advice a therapist has ever told you? and it happened to do with my dating life. And now it has almost 1 million views, which I was not expecting at all when I answered the question.
And before I have you answer that question, though, people are telling me on Facebook that they're hearing feedback. Our producer, December, if you're listening, they said it sounds like there's a radio in the background. So if I unplug her on Instagram and turn my computer is on mute, count to 5 for me, Alex.
I was going to say what I can also do is maybe put on my headphones.
This fixed it, I think. Lori Cole, if you're still watching, tell me if you hear if you're hearing weird feedback anymore.
Testing.
You're hearing feedback. It's because
she has 2.
Yeah.
She has 2 audios going. I have only 1. I have my computer on mute and a headset on Instagram. Who ever knew that we would become technical gurus?
You know what's also really embarrassing about this is I put 10 years into radio, and you'd think by now I would know.
Oh, no. There is a huge team of people that push buttons and move dials so that I am able to be relaxed and just do what I need to do. So when I do live streams, I get in a tizzy about the tech. Lori says she still hears it, so it must be on your end too.
Okay.
They say.
How about this? Can I go get headphones real quick, Dr. Wendy?
Oh yeah. I'll give people some relationship
go
advice while we're waiting. You go get some headsets.
Brief intermission.
There goes Alex. And while she's gone, let me just talk to you a little bit about some relationship advice. You know, I was having this conversation with a friend today about her ex, and on the show this upcoming Sunday on the Dr. Wendy Wall show, I want to talk about the kinds of relationships that we have with our exes. You know how some people, like, they and their exes are arch enemies forever. Other people, they're the best of friends. Still others just ghost them and don't talk or think about them. Some people I know even have sex with their ex. So I'm going to really break this down. On Sunday on the Dr. Wendy Wall show on KFI AM 640, I want to talk about how the kind of relationship you have with your exes says a lot about you, says a lot about your attachment style, says a lot about your emotions. So, Solange says feedback went away when Alex signed off. Yeah, because she was getting audio from 2 places, and that's what was happening. So soon she's going to come back with a headset, and she will only get it from one place. So in the comments, would you do me a favor and write down what your most common pattern is with your exes? I'm just so curious. Are you friends with most of your exes? Are you enemies? Do you end up in court together? I don't know. Maybe if there's kids involved sometimes. Are you just ghost them and don't think about them? They're like erased from your mind. Or are you even so close with your exes that sometimes you have sex with your ex? So put that in the comments. I'm really curious to hear about the kinds of relationships that people have with their ex. And so my gift of gab says 100% friends. Really? Visa Go says friends. Ivan Cap says completely stop talking to them. That's how I've always been, by the way. I'm getting better. There, she's coming back. They all said that the sound got better once you left. So it was something on your end with 2 sounds. Solange says the exes are long gone. Coldest December said you're still friends. Okay, so let me add you back to the stream here on. Oh, now you're gone on StreamYard. Are you still on StreamYard on your end, Alex? I see you on Instagram.
I am.
Okay. So everybody who's watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, Alex, count to 10. And is there feedback on her end?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so somebody tell me. Okay, so let's go on. I want to hear the best piece of relationship advice that you have or somebody ever told you.
I love how it was just like what the suspense that was building up to that. So I really hope the headphones, these radio headphones work. Basically, my therapist, this was a few years ago, and I had just gotten out of a very emotionally toxic relationship. And it was on and off, back and forth. It would go between situationship and relationship. And that went on and on and on for like 10 years. And
I had one of those. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
It's not good for anybody. And so what ended up happening was, I really saw these patterns in my life that I wasn't a fan of. And I was just like, okay, well, the constant in this situation is me. So what am I going to do about that? So me and that guy had ended. I had started going to therapy, but as I want everybody to know, therapy isn't just you snap your fingers and then you're better. Like, it's still a process. My therapist could tell you that. But it was when I started getting back into the dating pool. I started seeing this guy, and he was really nice, and my sparks were not going off, like I wasn't feeling those warm and fuzzy, feelings. Like we had had a great time anytime we were together. He was super nice. I respected him. All these things on paper were adding up, and it wasn't clicking in my brain. And I remember going to my therapist, Christy, and I was telling her about, my ex he became my ex, but this guy I was dating, we'll call him M. Had me come over for dinner, and, I went back to her. I was like, it was a great night, but I didn't feel anything. And she goes, okay, can you describe what you did feel? And I was just kind of quiet. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't feel anything. Like I didn't feel butterflies. I didn't feel all those things. And she goes, is it possible you felt just like peace? And it just like hit me in the face. And this is what I had realized. And, you have to be able, I think through a lot of working on yourself, is being able to discern what's happening. But what I realized for me was I was so used to this constant hum of anxiety, and the bar always being very low. And the moment like these butterflies and this constant hum of anxiety was down here, and anytime they did something nice or whatever, like it spiked, and I got that adrenaline and I got that rush of butterflies that I was looking for. And here this man was just being consistent and showing up for me. And, I wasn't familiar, because what I think a lot of people, what I had to realize is it didn't feel safe in my brain. And I know a lot of people are probably like, well, how is that even possible? Like how could someone being consistent or pursuing you not feel safe? But when you don't feel like subconsciously you are worthy of that, not that I would have ever admitted that to myself and still struggle with, I wanted to self-sabotage it. And thankfully, my therapist saw what was going on, and what I had to do, and what I now still do, especially when it comes to dating and it comes to good men that I might come across. And I say, okay, well, we want the same things. I enjoy my time with him, but I'm not sure if I'm feeling that attraction yet. For me, is just like taking the pressure off and just being like, just keep seeing him. Maybe that will grow. Like I have no idea. And what I started to see is, okay, well, the men that I am so quickly sexually attracted to are usually not the best ones for me. What is that? And so,
and the textbook definition of that is actually an anxious attachment style, right?
Yes,
so
which I am.
The butterflies are actually a little bit of fear.
Yes.
Fear of abandonment, or fear that he will hurt you, or fear that he's fooling around, or fear. And so this excitement and the spike comes whenever they come back to you and you're like, I got it. It's going to work now. It's going to be fine.
Yep.
And interestingly enough, our sexual arousal patterns often lead us right back to the scene of the crime from early childhood events, right? And our attachment style is never our fault. It's not even a conscious decision. It's something that's formed in our brains early in life. And then we unknowingly go out and find adults who will cooperate with us and give us those quote unquote butterflies. But I love that advice that she said, maybe you just feel peace.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, having a secure attachment isn't the roller coaster with the highs and lows and the spikes. Yeah. Having a secure attachment is pretty calm, feels good.
Yeah. But you know what? It's I'm so happy you brought up attachment styles, because that is something that I've really dug into. And I've known for, a while now that that I am an anxious attachment, which means just because you're avoidant doesn't mean that they have their own set of anxiety. They just deal with it in a different way, right? And the chaotic energy I love so much, and that is so comfortable to me, is that avoidant attachment type. And so what was happening is just like what I've had to do and what I'm still working through is when I feel them pulled away. When you have an anxious attachment, your first inclination is to move in. And what I've done a good job at is discerning that, and then adjusting and having to ask myself hard questions. But trust me, it's exhausting. And so I also would be so interested to ask you, like, I don't know, like, can you be a true secure type, or are you always kind of ping-ponging back and forth?
Well, let me say this. So the research shows that about 20% of our population have a secure attachment style. So the other 80% of us are a mixed bag of anxious, avoidant, anxious, ambivalent, that they come forward, go away, drama queens, right? They push away, they pull in, etc. But someone told me some advice early on. I also overcame an anxious attachment disorder myself. And I think I did it through a number of reasons. 7 years of therapy, and research shows that a good relationship with a therapist can be very healing. Also, because I was a single mother for 15 years and kept my kids so close, that as I was consoling them and saying, don't worry, baby, mommy's coming home, who do you think the brain was also hearing? My own brain. So I was self-consoling. So there's research also to show that the parent-child relationship can heal attachment issues. But my therapist said something to me many, many years ago. And she said, people who have a secure attachment style, when they meet avoidant people and anxious people, they go, nice chick, but I'm not going to call her back. They move away very quickly because it just doesn't feel right to them.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew that I was healed, when I would go on the dating apps and be like, nope, 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 because I could read the parallel universe. I could see the writing on the wall. And and my friends would say to me, you're really too hard on men. You find one thing wrong and you just dump them. But it was very important growth for me because I used to do the opposite. Like you, it's hang in there and be in love with hope.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I think, that's something I'm still working through. Like the things that I have to honor that I've come a really long way. I think what's so interesting about dating and dating as a millennial and dating in a pandemic and, all of these other factors, what I have been running into is a lot of, well, at least for me, a lot of avoidant styles can really mask being secure. And then all of a sudden, the rug is pulled out from under you, and you're like, "What just happened?" You know what I mean? And it's still
How
kind of
tell early on. I had to learn this because there are a lot of people that say things, but then their behaviors don't back it up, right?
Yeah.
So forget the words in that sense. But the other thing is you showcase and model your feelings early on and watch how they respond.
Yeah.
If they're able to reciprocate by either really consoling you in an honest way and talking about a time in their life where they might have felt that way, then you know that they're aware of their feelings, they can express their feelings, and they can tolerate other people's feelings. Because the worst thing about avoidant people actually isn't, for me, not that they can't express their feelings, it's that they can't tolerate seeing other people's feelings. They're not intended to, right? So what is a healthy relationship? Let's talk about it. A healthy relationship is an exchange of care. And that care can take so many forms, right? It could be financial care, sexual care, domestic responsibility care, emotional care. But emotional care is the backbone. And research on long-term relationships shows the one piece that's the big glue. Why men say, I could have had affairs, but I didn't. Why women say, he drove me crazy, but I always stayed. The one reason is because they had emotional intimacy and they loved their partner and didn't want to hurt them because they cared about them. But people who are avoidant can't tolerate their own feelings and they can't tolerate other people's feelings. So what you need to do is test them really early on by actually leading with vulnerability, because vulnerability is the strength position. Now, they're going to make you feel really bad by being vulnerable because they're either going to dismiss you, change the subject, laugh at your tender feelings, and do, you know what, we got back home. So deal with it. But that's a little litmus test.
Yeah.
If they can't tolerate an open expression of feelings, move away early.
Yeah, and that's all very, very true. I think what I've noticed about myself is one of the things I do when I go in and I date is I talk very openly about therapy. I'm very open with my feelings, and we kind of get into those things early on. And again, I think what I've noticed is a lot of men are like, I'm in therapy, all of these things, and they talk about it. And then, what has been an interesting one for me? They are, I've dated quite a lot of men who are talking about therapy, talk about their growth. They talk about feelings and all this stuff. The one thing that I have noticed, it's such a small thing, is they cannot take a compliment. I've seen, and I think that has actually become this very minor or this very small thing that I think now is becoming a bigger red flag to me. Because again, like you said, like I can talk about my feelings and they're just like, yes, or they want to dig into my feelings. Like they want to go like, tell me about your childhood. Like, do you want kids? Like, what do you want? Tell me about like all these things. Like they want me to open up about my emotional baggage and trauma and all this stuff. And then, when I try to get in there, it's a little bit harder. And I've noticed that, like, I think sometimes people can deflect and constantly talk about everyone else's trauma. But then when you try to, again, engage more with them, they give you a little bit. And I think for me in my brain, it's like, okay, well, that's just their boundary. And so that's totally fine. We don't have to talk about that. And then in retrospect, you're just like, okay, yeah, like, again, there's always be appropriate. I'm also not saying I don't personally believe that you should go into the first few dates like, well, here are all my scars and here's all my trauma.
No,
like, don't do that.
Being emotionally honest in the early stages of relationship is also being honest about your boundaries. So if somebody asks you a prickly question, like, there are guys in the early, I don't have to tell you this, in the early dates who will be asking things like your favorite sexual position. It's like,
yeah,
really? And so, the perfect answer is, I've got a great answer for you, and I hope to know you well enough someday to share that with you.
Ooh, I'm going to put that one back in my back pocket. I love that.
Because then it puts them on alert to earn your trust.
And you know what? But that's good for me. Like, that's not even like, that's a good thing for me to know, not even to test, because, I think where I have, I have this tougher exterior sometimes when it comes to guys. And I do think sometimes, and this is me guessing, I do think that men have seen that as a challenge. Mm-hmm. And then when I start to feel safe and I let my guard down and I'm like, hey, like, I actually like you too. They're like, oh, okay, well, the chase is over. Goodbye. And I think that is a dynamic that a lot of millennials, according to my TikTok For You page, are going through.
Those are also the guys who are liking your avoidance side, right? Mm-hmm. So the research shows that, the longest and most sticky relationship and the most unhappy is between somebody with avoidant attachment style and an anxious attachment style, because they're constantly chasing, right?
Yeah.
And they often have really long marriages, and they both report that they're really unhappy. One feels engulfed and the other feels not getting their needs met.
Yeah.
And so one way that a guy is going to say that, well, the chase is over, means that he himself isn't ready for true intimacy. And true intimacy, like, it takes time to grow, and you have to stay in a stage of unknowing, Alex, for a while, a few weeks or months, where you just don't know.
It's hard.
I actually want to share a story with you. So
please.
During pandemic, I met a boyfriend on Bumble, no less. I met him in August. We have been together since. We are fast and furious and deeply in love. But early on in the relationship, my old triggers of anxiety popped up, and he was traveling a lot for business because he's in the film business and he had to be on sets and such. Tested all the time on sets. He'd come back, quarantine, whatever, I'd see him. But one time he changed his travel plans without telling me, and actually texted me from LA and said, by the way, I caught an early flight back. I decided to come back or something. And something really angered me about that because I thought, he landed in my city yesterday and he didn't think to call me and say, I'm home. Now, we'd only been dating 3 weeks. There's no reason he should have, right?
Yes.
But it was a trigger for me that had to do nothing to do with him or his behavior.
Yeah.
So when I did speak with him, I said this, look, I want to share something with you. And I know it's really early to share a truth, but you should know my dad was in the Navy and he's gone 6 months a year. And because he was fighting in the Cold War, we weren't allowed to know what part of the globe he was in or when he'd be coming back. Yeah. My entire childhood was spent longing for a man to come home. And I said, when you came home and didn't tell me where you were, the little girl in me thought, I'm not important enough for him to tell me or for him to call me. Anyway, his reaction, because he has a secure attachment style, was, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing this. I can't believe you told me this. That must have been so hard for you to say. And I promise you can always know my location. Put me on Find My, let you look at my phone and see where I am. And if I don't call you, you call me right away. I'll pick up every time and we'll work through this. And interesting, that one conversation, Alex, literally, like now he's like telling me, oh, by the way, I'm going here. I'm like, I don't care now. It's okay. Like,
the trust is there. Yeah.
It wasn't to do with him. He was a modern day object for an old wound. And because he took the time to do the words that I wish my dad had said, it healed me. And that anxiety is just gone now. Now there'll be other triggers. I have another shit, but you know.
Girl, listen. No,
works. You start by being real. And those who can't handle that, you move away from them.
You know, that is actually something I need to hear right now. And so, you know, I noticed, you know, I was seeing a guy a few months ago and, you know, dating in quarantine or dating in a pandemic, like it's not easy. And I realized in doing that, how deep my abandonment wounds run. They run deep. And what I do is what I have said is I feel like the guys I've dated would probably never know. And then what I do is it's almost just like, well, it's too early to communicate with them. Like, I don't want to freak them out. And I kind of just like spiral on my own. And my anxiety was so debilitating because again, we're dealing with so much right now. And then you just put that on top of it when you are someone who deals with anxiety, it's a lot. And so I think even just hearing that healthy communication and how you were upfront about it is so
I didn't say you should have called me.
No.
I was angry. I said, okay, here's my deal. And when this happened, here was the inappropriate or not, doesn't make sense, little girl feeling inside me.
Yeah.
And
I'm embarrassed. Yeah.
To console in that way. And I will say that I think dating in the pandemic is great because it creates this litmus test. Like, if a dude won't wear a mask, I will say this. We talked on the phone on a Thursday. We met for a coffee on a Sunday morning and I picked the Wendy on the ocean place and told him he had to wear a mask on and had to be 12 feet away from me. So we just took our nest down to eat and then back right up again. And when we left, he fist bumped me. Second date, again, I found a windy pier. We ate at the lunch at the Malibu Pier. So we went from morning coffee to lunch. Third date was a dinner. Again, I went to Terranea Resort out on the cliff with the wind blowing my hair. I didn't care. Masks on, fist bump. Fourth date, he said to me, can we both get a COVID test? Because I would really love to hug you tonight. So you can use COVID as a way to slow things down and grow intimacy in a slow, beautiful way.
And I think that's so great because again, like I'm dating, you know, I'm dating again and, you know, I'm really trying to be like, well, what did I learn with this last failed dating situation? And, you know, how I always love a lesson, Dr. Wendy. But even just like moving into that is again, like allowing the pace to be slow and that be okay. And also know that I don't, again, obviously, like logically, yes, I know I don't need to know if I need to marry this guy tomorrow, but I don't even need to know if I want to go on a 5th date with this guy, you know, tomorrow. Like it's just
stay in the moment,
staying in the moment and having fun with it. Like, I think there is, I have never really regretted putting myself out there and going on dates. And trust me, I've had my fair share of bad dates. And I've always said, if it's a bad date, it's a good story. And your girl has a lot of good stories.
Oh yeah. I wrote 3 books filled with anecdotes about bad dates. So
listen, I always say it's going in the book because I'm going to have a book one day. But there are, I had this very, very real conversation with one of my very protective girlfriends yesterday on a hike. And like, we were just talking about like how I think also there, and I don't know how much time we have, but like even the body image thing too, of like how for someone like me that goes into dating, and there are so many walls that are up for me. And it's hard to kind of
mean someone like you.
So I have like a very large following because, of a lot of men on social media, which I'm not thrilled about, but it is what it is. Because I do know, and this is a weird thing to say, like I have a very curvy body type, and it is a body type that is often fetishized by men. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I have to unpack all the time. That is why I'm very outspoken about body image and body empowerment. Just because your body is shaped a certain way does not give man the agency to fetishize it, sexualize it, and treat you like an object or whatever. But what I do run into is with dating, there's that extra layer that is up because I am constantly deleting messages or seeing really, really disturbing things that men say all day. And it's just, you're getting hit with that over and over and over.
Yeah, learn to use that block button. I learned to use that block button.
It's my favorite. It is my absolute favorite button. But then,
But you're wanting to be seen.
Yes.
I mean, it's like they can't see you because they're so distracted. And you've got youth and you've got beauty. So all of that. I mean, I'll just tell you this about like an old auntie telling you what your roadmap is going to be like down the road.
Tell me.
I am 58 years old and I feel happier and more beautiful than I ever did because I can walk down the street without everybody gawking. I mean, I was so beautiful. I took my own breath away when I was your age, right? And so as a result, I feel free now and I love this place that I'm at.
Yeah.
And you'll age out of this problem.
Yeah. That's it.
Which is great.
That is great to hear. But like, it's so, it is interesting because like, the constant fear is, okay, well, what is their motive here? And there's not like, that's like, for me, it's like, I am very open about that again on my platform. I think one of the reasons why I talk about it so much and what is very fulfilling to me is actually the amount of men that have reached out to me and dads and husbands who have said, you talked about this so much that I actually am like, I never saw it from that point. And thank you, because now I get to have a different conversation with my daughters. Yeah. And it's not filled with this shame of, that there's something wrong with you and, all these things.
Men understood. And I'm sure you're helping to educate them.
Trying.
When I was in my 20s, my boobs were so big and I was a tall skin. I don't know what God was thinking, but he decided, let's do a fun experiment and put a nerd inside Barbie's body. And so men would talk to me and their eyes the entire time would be on my chest. I mean, I would literally, even bosses at work, it was like a reflex they were not aware of. Yeah. And unfortunately, rather than me addressing it or trying to change the culture like you have the voice and power to do, I went and had major breast reduction surgery. Is that terrible?
You know what?
I altered my body so that people could see my mind.
And you know what? I'm happy you said that because that is something that I go back and forth with all the time, right? Like, and so there is this, well, you could get the reduction and then, you can sift through all of that. And then the stubborn part of me is, why the hell do you have to go through a really complicated, painful surgery?
Dangerous. All surgeries are dangerous.
Yes, because of men. Like it's kind of like this like catch-22 where then I get really angry about that again, where I'm just like, I just I understand the reality. I understand that I'm always going to get hit with these comments. I do know what it can do to my mental health, X, Y, and Z. But I actually, at this point in my life, and who knows, maybe one day down the line when I'm done having kids, I will want to have it. But at this point in my life, I would rather just embrace my body to the best of my ability and figure it out. And guess what? There are going to be men that fetishize me, and that sucks. It does. It doesn't feel good.
And I think it's a much healthier perspective because you're understanding that it's the culture's problem, not your problem. You know, I was 25 and I thought there was something wrong with me.
Oh, yeah.
Needed to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I just love the voices of young women and my daughters, and they are true feminists and true, you know, moving forward in the world. And by the way, gentlemen out there, if you're listening, it's okay when we're in a relationship with you to tell us we're beautiful, to tell us we're attractive, to be turned on by us. But if that is the only thing when you're friends and business and acquaintances that you can't get past, then you've got to learn that there's a lot more to women than just our bodies.
I have, like, my friend said it to me yesterday. She's like, do you have to just ask this on the first date? I was like, I mean, I'll unpack that a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know if I should just hit them with the, hey, just so you know, like, I'm a person, but like, there is something to that. And like, where it's just like, yeah, I think, well, that's what the culture does, right? That's what misogynists do. They sexualize someone to the point that they are an object. They actually don't have feelings. They're not a person. They're only there for their pleasure, and that's it. And they can't see outside of that. And so, yeah, that's an interesting thing to navigate with dating. But I love what you said, because guess what? When I am with someone and I like them, or I've fallen in love with them, and we are in a relationship, then I want them to be like all of those things. I want them to be turned on by me. I want them to like my body. I want them to love my body. Like but that's the thing, like there is that's a safe area. And like at that point, of course, I would hope that I've determined that you like all the other things about me too, or at least you're figuring it out, you know? And so all those things can coexist. And I'm glad that you pointed out the difference between what those two things are.
Right. One is like, they haven't even had the time to get to know your brain. They immediately turned you into an object for their eyes and their desire. So I'm glad, and I thank you so much for speaking out about this topic. I could talk to you all night, Alex. It's such a treat to finally meet you, the fifth floor girl.
I know.
Tell people where they can listen to your podcast and all about your podcast.
So, so my podcast is called Alex Tries Her Best. We actually took a little bit of a hiatus since September, but we're coming back. I started a new position, and so things have been crazy and the world is falling apart. So, but it's called Alex Tries Her Best, and you can stream it wherever you listen to podcasts. But actually what I would love for people to do is, what's great about this is these episodes are evergreen. And so I know people that go back. I listened to
a few of them today. They're great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Absolutely. She's got a really good one on dating during COVID.
I was going to say, we did a dating COVID one. The one that actually has gotten the most streams is about a year old, with my friend Emily Sears, who's a model, and it's about body empowerment and about what we just talked about and navigating dating. And so there's one about breakups. We have one about, we even go to talking about, acting during COVID, about systemic racism. We cover everything. So Alex Tries Her Best, and follow me on all socials, Alex on the mic, ALEX on the MIC.
Alex on the mic. And if any of Alex followers are listening to me, my podcast is called Mating Matters, and you can get it wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much for being with me. Such a treat. And good luck to you. I actually keep in touch, please. Send me an email.
I will.
Let me know how the dating goes.
I'm going to be sending you a DM right after this.
All right. Good night. Thanks
good
for being
night.
here.
See you later. Of course.